Let's talk about financial literacy. And no, it's not about boring spreadsheets or complicated charts. It's about freedom. The freedom to make your own choices, to feel secure, and, to build the life you actually want. So, how do we get there? Let's break it down. Okay, let's kick things off with a number that should really make you sit up and listen. 78%. That's how many Americans are thought to be living paycheck to paycheck. Now, this isn't just some abstract number, it's the daily reality for millions of people. And it really makes you ask a big question. So, why are so many of us struggling with money? You might think it's all about how much we earn, right? Well, not really. The real root of the problem, a lot of the time, is a massive knowledge gap. It turns out what we know is just as important as what's in our bank account. And that brings us right to something called the financial literacy gap. And believe me, it's way wider than you might think. This isn't just a problem in one country. It's a global issue, and the numbers are pretty staggering. Just how big is this gap? Well, it's huge. A major global survey found that only about 1 in 3 adults actually gets basic financial concepts. Think about that. That means 2/3 of the entire world is trying to make their way through this super complex financial system with a huge disadvantage. And if we dig a little deeper and look at the breakdown by gender, a whole other pattern pops up. All around the world, there's this stubborn 5-point gap. And it's not just in a couple of places, it's a trend you see everywhere, in wealthy countries and developing ones too. So the really important question is why? Why does this gap even exist? Well, what the research shows is pretty interesting. It's often not about ability at all. Women are just way more likely to answer a financial question with, I don't know. And that suggests the gap is really about confidence and maybe not having the same exposure to financial education. Just knowing that is the first step to fixing it. Okay, so how do we start to close this gap? It all begins with understanding the rules of the game. Let's pull back the curtain on some of those invisible forces that are shaping your finances every single day. Most of us probably think of a bank like a giant safe vault, right? Just holding on to our cash. But the reality is, it's more like a financial matchmaker. See, when you deposit your money, the bank only keeps a tiny bit of it. They lend out the rest, and they make their profit on what's called the spread. That's the difference between the low interest they pay you and the much higher interest they charge the people they lend to. Yep, that's how they make money with your money. And that leads us right into interest. Think of it like this: money's way of charging rent, and it's a total double-edged sword. When you're in debt, oh man, it's your worst enemy, just constantly working against you. But when you invest, it becomes your best unpaid employee, working 24/7 to make you more money. And then there's inflation, the silent thing that just eats away at your money. Here's a simple way to think about it. You know when you buy a bag of chips and it feels like the bag is half empty, but it costs more than it did last year? That's basically inflation. Your $5 is still $5, but its purchasing power, what you can actually buy with it, is going down. All right, so that's the big picture stuff. Let's bring it back down to you. There are 2 really important tools that you can actually control to manage your own financial life. You can think of it as your personal financial scorecard. First up, your credit score. It's not about how rich you are, it's just a 3-digit number, usually somewhere between 300 and 850, and it has 0 to do with your income or what's in your savings. It measures one thing and one thing only: how much lenders can trust you to pay back money you borrow. So what goes into that number? Well, the biggest piece of the pie, a whopping 35%, is just your payment history. It's as simple as, do you pay your bills on time? The next biggest chunk is how much money you owe. If you can get a handle on just those 2 things, you're already on your way to a really solid score. Okay, the second tool you need to master is a budget. And a fantastic place to start is the 50-30-20 rule. It's a super simple way to think about your after-tax income. 50% goes to your needs, rent, food, the essentials. 30% is for your wants, going out, hobbies, fun stuff. And then a non-negotiable 20% goes straight to savings and investments. All right, so you've got a handle on managing your money day to day. But what about growing it for the future? Let's talk about playing the long game. This is where small, consistent habits can build some serious wealth over time. And the engine that drives this long game, it's all about compound interest. You've probably heard this quote before, and it's so true. It's the whole idea of your money starting to make its own money. Your interest starts earning its own interest, and it creates this snowball effect that just gets bigger and bigger and bigger over time. It's incredible. Let me show you how powerful this is with a quick story about 2 friends, Miguel and Jasmine.
Miguel starts investing just 25 bucks a month right from the get-go. Jasmine, on the other hand, waits 10 years, but to make up for lost time, she decides to invest double what Miguel does, 50 bucks a month. Fast forward, and they both retire after 40 years.
So who do you think has more money? You might be surprised. Even though Miguel invested $6,000 less of his own money, he ends up with over $20,000 more than Jasmine. And that's all thanks to the power of compounding over time. It just proves the number one rule of investing. Time in the market is way more important than timing the market. That 10-year head start was everything.
Okay, so why is this all so important? Let's wrap things up and boil it all down to the key things you can take away and start using right now.
So here's your roadmap. First, get a grip on the basic rules of the game, things like interest and inflation. Second, master your own scorecard by keeping an eye on your credit and sticking to a budget. Third, play the long game. Start investing early, even if it's just a little bit. And finally, and maybe most importantly, just commit to closing your own knowledge gap.
Because at the end of the day, we need to think about this differently. Financial literacy isn't about some get-rich-quick scheme. It's not about the pursuit of wealth just for the sake of having more money.
It's about something way more important. It's about the power of being in control, having control over your choices, your security, and your own future. It's the freedom you get when you understand the system instead of letting the system control you. So I'm going to leave you with this question to think about. After everything we just went over, what's the one single decision you can make, starting today, that will put you in charge of your financial future?